Welcome to another exciting episode of Kevjet the podcast. I'm thrilled to introduce this week's guest, Canadian singer-songwriter Christina Martin.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, okay. See, this is a very meaningful, informative podcast.
We discuss first jobs, lube jobs, and nuclear power plants.
I was living in Halifax, and one of my first jobs was door-to-door sales selling lube jobs for $19.99. Now, this job, I only lasted I think 2 weeks. You heard it here first on Kevjet.
Here are all the exciting details about her highly anticipated album, which is being released September 1st, Storm.
I knew that Storm was a very strong, for me, it conjured up visuals and inspired me to think of what the album might sound like and what it could look like on stage with my band someday. I started thinking about music videos and all of that stuff starts happening for me, so that's a good sign. It's a very nostalgic album for me. But, pull up your big girl panties and make the decisions and don't stop until you're happy with the music.
Christina explains what life on the road is like for her and how she plans her tours.
My time to recharge now is actually going out on the road and singing it, which also is a burnout for a lot of artists. The way I plan my touring, it's more like a healthy healing process. There's time to breathe.
Get yourself comfortable and get to know the very candid Christina Martin.
I'm probably not allowed to talk about this stuff, but spoiler alert.
What else?
Vagina.
Yeah, vagina, top on the list.
Yes, vaginal exploration live.
Yeah.
Kevjet.
Yeah, I'm sure you can get some sort of a adapter for your iPhone with a little camera on the end.
It would be a first for me. I'm very conservative, prude. I have a doctor, and I let them take care of.
You say that.
There.
Yeah. The last time I had to go for a checkup, the doctor had to look up my back passage, and he used an adapter.
Sorry, your backpack? Your back package?
My back passage.
Asshole?
Sorry. Yeah.
You're talking about your colon? Did you have a colonoscopy?
Well, he just had to have a quick look. So he just attached this little snake camera to his iPhone.
Yummy.
And just did it right there. So I made a joke, and I was like, because this is awkward. And I was like, I hope you're not live streaming this. And he didn't even crack a smile.
Oh, what an asshole.
Which made
Get it
even worse.
It sounds like it was a delicate procedure, unlike a colonoscopy, which, for all your listeners, if you're going to get a colonoscopy, don't listen to the person who tells you not to take the drugs.
Exactly. I just had a procedure as well. And they did an endoscopy to do the procedure, and I woke up in the middle of it. And the surgeon's eyes told me everything.
Oh.
I knew I wasn't meant to wake up at that stage. So he just said to me with his eyes massive, and he was like, I need 30 more seconds, Kevin. I need 30 more seconds.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, then give me more drugs.
So he did, because I don't remember anything after that.
I need 30 more seconds, Kevin. You should have said that to the anesthesiologist.
I know. I wish I hadn't gone back to sleep, because I would have said something like, sounds like a date I had once.
You know what? Yeah. You know what? I'll give you 2 minutes. All right?
Exactly.
Take your time. My God. I don't care. You're the one in charge.
Yeah.
What a lovely way to start our chat.
I know.
But I really, I started the colonoscopy without drugs, and it was the worst decision I've ever. That's my biggest regret. It was horrible, horrifying. Luckily, they had already had me hooked up to an IV so that they could deliver the drugs. Right.
And did it work for you? Because some people say it doesn't work until the procedure is finished.
No, as soon as I said, give me drugs, the rest of it, I don't really remember, but I felt great after.
Yeah, of course.
But nothing can erase the horrific trauma from the first, felt like 10 minutes, but it was probably only 50 seconds. That
Yep.
was horrifying. And I let somebody convince me not to take the drugs.
We might as well get started now that we've hit some hot topics.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Need a bathroom break?
by the way, it was totally beautiful pink colon on my end. I don't know what about you.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. I get the ooh, it's very smooth.
Nice. Yeah.
I know it's very awkward in those conversations because you're like, is it a compliment?
Thank you. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think if smooth is, if you don't want it rough, like, yeah, I guess it's, how is it supposed to look? If it's not supposed to be smooth and pink, if it's supposed to be, I don't know, purple, or then you're in trouble. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those fun things. But go and get your assholes checked, everybody who's listening. It's very important. And then we can have a conversation about it.
See, this is a very meaningful, informative podcast.
It is. Welcome, Christina Martin, to the Kevjet podcast.
Thank you. What a privilege and a pleasure to be here. Yay.
You're joining us from Nova Scotia.
Yeah, I'm in Port Howe. It's on the North Shore. Apparently we have the warmest beaches north of the Carolina.
Ooh.
Carolinas. Carolina? North, for God's sakes. Yeah, anyway, it's pretty warm here, the water. I don't go in it, but there you go.
You don't go in it?
No, I don't see the point. There's too much in there that could sting me, or I don't want to step on something. Like, I like pools, or I have gone snorkeling in, like, beautiful, clear, warm, tropical waters on a tour, surrounded by somebody that could save me. But no, the water's too cold here, and there's stuff in it, and now there's sharks up here, and I'm
not
like,
fun.
why? I don't care. I just don't have the desire to go in it at all. I like enjoy other things in my life that don't include going in the ocean. I like looking at the ocean.
I miss the ocean. Yeah, I miss the sound of the ocean.
Well, you could just get one of those, like, devices that just plays it in your ear, or Spotify probably has some ocean playlists.
They do. It's just not the same. Yeah. You have to have the smell. You have to have all of those senses, I think. There's something about being at home and going for a walk on the ocean at the end of the day and just, like, clearing your mind.
I do like that. We do bike or drive down to the beach when the tide's out. Dale and I, my partner Dale, we do love the beach walks. Yes, that's fun.
Yeah. So just not going to put your life in the hands of the ocean.
I don't want to go in, and then you get the car wet with salt. I don't know. I know. Again, I have other interests in my life, not getting into the ocean. Yeah.
Cool. Well, can you just tell me how you ended up in Nova Scotia? Because you weren't born in Nova Scotia, were you?
No, I was actually born in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And
again, ocean.
I know. I guess maybe I'm supposed to go in it. I guess I'm a Southern girl. No, I grew up though in Atlantic Canada, but in New Brunswick. My parents were Canadian, French Canadian, and we were raised in Fredericton. We moved around a bit, and then ended up in Fredericton and Rothsay, and I went to high school in Grand Falls, New Brunswick. And then I went to university, my first and second year university at St. Mary's University in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So that was my first time ever in Nova Scotia. And I fell in love with Halifax. But then I went away for a while. I lived in Austin, Texas, and in Germany, back to Austin. And at that point, I had just been freshly married, and decided to come back. The decision came to come back and finish my school, because at that time, I was working like 4 or 5 different jobs just to scrape by, and I was pursuing music, but I didn't know how to make a living at it. And I guess my belief at the time was I need to finish my education so that I can make more money. and have more freedom. So I guess I decided Halifax was going to be a better place for my, oh, a car is driving by, which is very exciting out here. I live on a dirt road, and oh my God, who is it? I don't know. In any case. So yeah, I remember thinking Halifax, like what a great small city for my husband, who was from Austin at the time, to come back to. And I'd had my, 2 years already at this university. So we just came back to Halifax, and I have not left Nova Scotia. I mean, I've left like for work, but I've lived here ever since 2004 is when I came back. Yeah.
There's no other place like it. The energy of Halifax, I absolutely love.
Yeah, super friendly, and I learned quickly because even though I was studying back at university, I learned that there was a way like to learn how to make a living doing what I loved, which was music, and I saw other musicians doing that, and discovered that we had organizations like Music Nova Scotia and Factor that helped educate, and there was funding to help artists, emerging artists, and so I eventually latched onto all of that, and was inspired by other musicians at the time in Nova Scotia. There was a way to actually make a go of this thing that I love to do. So
it's
that
amazing,
was something. Yeah,
there's so much talent in Nova Scotia, isn't there?
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Join us each week on the Well Beyond Medicine podcast as we explore the 80% of child health impacts that occur outside the doctor's office. Listen and subscribe at nemourswellbeyond.org, where you'll hear pediatric experts, researchers, and policymakers from around the world discussing ways they are revolutionizing children's health. I'm your host, Carol Vassar. Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh, for sure. All over Canada. And, definitely, I think in Eastern Canada, like a lot of people, or musicians would maybe navigate to Halifax because it was like the big, especially in Atlantic Canada, the biggest city, I suppose. I found it a very supportive place to be. I mean, in other places in the world, musicians, you may have like at maybe a state level or a community level, some funding, but nothing quite like what we have in Canada. So that was definitely a great reason to stay.
You talked about your several jobs at a time. You've had some pretty interesting jobs.
Oh my God. I mean, my first job was door-to-door sales. I shouldn't say my first. My first job was working in a seniors facility, actually, out of high school in my neighborhood. And that was really terrifying at first. But I grew to really love it, and like I gained all this confidence, and I was part of the like recreational team, and it became this real fun job for me, the summer job. But a couple years later, I was living in Halifax, and one of my first jobs was door-to-door sales, selling lube jobs.
I love the story.
For $19.99. And like, it was so surreal. I remember I answered an ad in the paper that was like, you want to make thousands of dollars a month or whatever? And I was like, yeah, I do. I'm fucking broke. And I was living in Halifax that summer. I remember my dad was sick. He had just been, told me he had terminal cancer. And anyway, I needed to make some money for a couple months, and I took this job out of desperation, and I'd show up at like 6 a.m. and there was like a team of us, and we would get dropped off in random neighborhoods all over HRM, Halifax Regional Municipality, and like rain or shine, we'd have to go door to door and sell these lube jobs from $19.99. And I got to tell you, like, that was terrifying, but
can you just explain to your UK listeners what a lube job is?
Well, I guess it's just, getting like an oil change and whatever else they do to lube up your car so that it's running well. And there were other discounts you could add on. And actually, it was a pretty good deal now that I think of it. And so, at the end of the day, you kind of be collected, and I was terrible at it, but I remember getting over myself and doing things to just kind of get out of my shyness and like singing for people. Like the goal was like get your foot in the door, keep it in the door, like keep that door open and
Yeah.
and win them over. And so I did. Now this job, I only lasted like I think 2 weeks. But in that 2 weeks, like I gave it my all. I'm a pretty hard worker, and it felt like a really long time to have this job, probably because it was really hard. But yeah, I did win some people over. I didn't do that well. I did hate the job though. And I just decided to have fun with it, and then I quit. I was also working as an usher at the Halifax Metro Center. So my evenings I would dress up in my gray attire and I got to usher these concerts. And I remember seeing Celine Dion perform, the Tragically Hip and saw lots of hockey games. Yeah, that was another job I did at the time. But I've nannied. Oh, geez, I've done a lot of respite work actually. So my jobs got kind of ridiculous. Were ridiculous in the beginning, and then got kind of more serious and fun. And
You had kind of I was trying to remember all morning. It was either at a sewage plant or a nuclear plant.
oh my God, not a sewage plant. I would never ever do that. I worked, I went to Science Academy one summer in high school, and I worked at a nuclear power plant in Deep River. Um, Deep River Science Academy is and so my job, I was working in I think the environmental department. My colleagues and I, the other students, our job was to like design, okay, well, high school students, to design basically a giant like kitty litter box that would go underground. It was full of clinoptilolite, which would be placed in front of a groundwater, like basically a plume filled with strontium-90 that was going through the groundwater and threatening to end up in the water, which I think it did. I think it was in the water. And this giant box was going to be put in the ground in front of the groundwater, in the path of the strontium-90, and would cleanse it. And we were building this model, and we tested it out, and we did a presentation. I don't know if they ever put it to use because, you're not allowed to I'm probably even not allowed to talk about this stuff, but spoiler alert, there's a lot of crap around the nuclear power plant that in the old days, they buried, and then it leaked.
Sure.
And was traveling into the waterways and threatening people's lives. I think this is common knowledge, but if not, you heard it here first on Kevjet.
Exactly.
And that was fun. And so every day we had these little radiation tags on that we would have to go through a scanner. And on the way out, if we were at a certain level, you would have to be like, I don't know, deradiated or something. But a couple of my, this never happened to me, but a couple of our fellow students had to kind of hang back and have like a radiation bath or something.
Wow. I wonder where they are now.
Oh my God, we shouldn't even joke about that. I mean, some of them may not be doing so well. Yeah.
Wow.
It was a fun camp though. I remember, it's my first time ever going to camp. I remember bawling. I wasn't the kind of kid that would like show emotion, but I remember I had so much fun at being away from home and just the bonds you make at summer camp. The last day, I fell apart. I was so sad I had to leave. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, maybe it was the radiation.
Maybe it was the radiation, I was going to say.
Yeah. The strontium-90 got to me.
And you also did lots of like nanny work, haven't you?
Yeah, I was a nanny for years. I love that job. I think there's something in me that loves I love people and I love some kids. But I like organization and planning things.
Sure.
And I love cleaning. So that job kind of had, all of that. And then of course, nannying involved allowed me to travel, and I didn't even mind, I was living with families, and I found that, it's not like my ideal scenario. I prefer living alone. I like my alone time, but I did it for a long time in different families. And I think it was really good for me Oh, there's another car. Who could it be now? That's the neighbor. Again, we're on the dirt road. It's very exciting when somebody drives by. I remember it seemed to be the kind of job that I would take in my 20s on and off in order to like rehabilitate myself from like a traumatic time or a high stress time. And I was really grateful for the opportunities, the families that I did find. Or that found me and hired me and let me live with them and like let me take care of their kids. That's a big responsibility, and I really took it seriously, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Did that help you decide later in life that you didn't want to have children?
That I didn't want to have kids.
Yeah.
I think it satisfied. I think I knew that I would be a great mom. I think I would be a great mom, but I also knew you sign on to this as a real parent, like you don't get to go home and no one's going to pay you to do this. And when I made the choice, I guess, to do music full time, I don't know about other people's experiences. I know you can have kids and do music, but for me and what it requires me to stay healthy and focused, I knew it was a choice that I wasn't going to raise a family. I needed a lot, like all my time and energy. And yeah, maybe it did satisfy something in me for a certain period of time. Yeah, but I think I would be a good mom, but it's not in my cards. I don't want that in my life,
Storm is coming out September 1st, and I have had the link to listen to it for the last few days. And I've had it on repeat, and I have a few favorite songs already that are like stuck in your head. And
oh yeah.
yeah, and I'm not going to say which ones they are until it's.
Oh, come on. I'm curious. I'm only starting to hear now what people think, and it's always fascinating because like there's what they mean to me.
I love the story of the album because obviously it opens with Storm, the single Storm, and it concludes with Healed. So you have like everything in between, and you kind of feel that emotion as well, like through each track. And like I said, there is a couple of them that just stick in your head, for me anyway. I know everyone listens to music differently. So just tell us about the process of writing that album. Was writing the album the process of healing, or had you had the process of healing and that's what brought you to write the album?
Well, I think writing songs and, deciding to be a singer and all that stuff in my 20s has always kept me like on this kind of healing journey. I'm not sure if we were ever fully healed from some of the things that happened to us in our life. Maybe some people can be, but so it's kind of interesting that I have a song called Healed because I don't fully feel healed. I think it's like every day I have to work at staying on this path of health and wellness. And I'm pretty good at it now. I'm good at it now, and I've fallen off the wagon a few times. But songwriting in general over the years has just always been that's part of my, I guess, wellness plan, really. And writing and reading and I don't do it, I don't always I have seasons for it too. I'm not every day I have my wellness plan, but I might not be writing songs, But this album wasn't written like at the same time. All these songs, they came about at different times. There's a song on the album called Still in LA that was written. It was one of my first songs that I wrote. I was living in Austin and a friend of mine had moved to LA. And I found this song had a home on this album finally, in part because it's a very nostalgic album for me too. There's a song on it called Austin, which I did finish for this album because for years I've just wanted to go back to Austin and visit friends, and it was just kind of an itch I had, and I did go this year finally for 2 weeks, and I'm glad I did. The songs some of them were written kind of from scratch, I guess, like during the pandemic, and others were not. Others were finished before the pandemic, and they were just that's kind of the way it's always been for me with doing an album is like, okay, I have time to write and get ready for this big commitment. An album is a big commitment,
Sure.
Unless you're not going to market it or anything like that. It's certainly a lot easier. And I look at what I've got and I get to work on finishing things. And sometimes new things come up in the process because you're in writing mode. And so that's kind of what happened with this. And I didn't realize until it was all done. Like I knew I wanted this. I knew that Storm was a very strong, like for me, it conjured up visuals and inspired me to think of what the album might sound like and what it could look like on stage with my band someday, possibly. I started thinking about music videos and all of that stuff starts happening for me. So that's a good sign. But I didn't know that, like, in the end, when all the songs were done and recorded, which took a long time, it was during the pandemic, we started working on this. We worked in different studios, different locations, and our own studio.
Right.
But I look back and I was like, oh, I could actually order these songs chronologically and hit these pivotal moments in my life, these times where something, big or magical happened, important. And so, yeah, and here I am now writing a song called, Healed, and going through whatever I was going through at that time during the pandemic. It's definitely a lot of these songs are kind of mantras for myself, reminders of like healing and, oh, don't forget to be grateful for all the shit that's happened. And
I mean, the album is a journey. It definitely is a journey.
That's great. That's great to hear because it certainly feels that way for me. Like I don't, you never know what it's going to be like for the listener where it'll find its home. So,
of course, yeah. No, it's a great album, and I like I said, I've had it on for the last few days, and it's kind of just been on repeat in the background. And every now and again, I walk up and put the volume on really loud, and it's a great album, and it's definitely not one of those albums where you like skip to the next track. You have to listen to it. It's like a book.
Well, that's what albums were like for me growing up. And they still are, if I actually get an album or take the time to listen, I'll listen to the whole album. And I remember like wanting to read the lyrics and get the artwork. And that's why, and I don't know, this might be the last one. I put so much into this. I am still burnt out from it, but it's okay. Like my time to recharge now is actually going out on the road and singing it, which also is a burnout for a lot of artists, but the way I plan my touring, it's more like a healthy healing process. There's time to breathe. There's, I'm very strict about, it's really like a health and wellness tour in a way. It sounds really boring, but we have time off so that I don't lose my mind and I can stay strong and
you can breathe
and sing and connect with people at the shows and after the shows. Like that's a big part of going out on tour for me. Building my fan base has been about, sing the best you can and then make sure you have time to be with people at the merch table and say your hellos and thank yous and then connect with them after if they've signed your mailing list and let them know how to stay in touch and all that stuff, which is exhausting, but that's part of what I love too about, this job.
You're calling it your most ambitious release to date. And why would you say that? Because you have several albums that you've recorded, you've toured. Do you feel like this might be one of your most honest albums?
In some ways, maybe like when I look at the lyrics, I think I'm pretty wide open. But I mean, I feel like I've also been that way this whole time. So by ambitious, I think that comes from all the time and the visualizing and the artwork and what I want to be able to do in the future with this, in terms of a live performance, which has not yet been realized.
Right.
It is ambitious. I don't know if I'm even going to be able to do it. That's okay. I mean, you could still try,
Yeah, of course.
And I know that people are okay with whatever I decide I can do, whether it's just myself and my guitar player, my husband Dale, or me in a band for a couple shows. So I'm still like dreaming and scheming on the live performance stuff for next year. Yeah, there were some things on this album that were ambitious for me and terrifying, like writing string parts. I'm not a string player. I I know my limits and I know I need help with things. So I've collaborated with this wonderful arranger string player named Karen Graves, who lives on Prince Edward Island, and she performed all of the string parts. But I initially, the way it worked was I wrote the parts with MIDI tracks with my keyboard. I actually downloaded it. Dave Stewart has a great free PDF on how to write strings for pop music. So I read that, and it was a good starter. And then I would send my ideas and share them with Dale. And sometimes Dale would collaborate and add ideas or suggestions. Send them to Karen. Karen would come back with either let's go with what you got, or I've got some other ideas. What do you think? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. Awesome. And so that was a big step for me, writing strings for this album and kind of being more involved in seeing that through was pretty exciting for me, and being more involved in the overdub process and melodies, and having the ability to use MIDI tracks, which I had never done myself for an album. So I was the more than I've ever been in terms of production. I've always executive produced my albums and been involved in the production, obviously, but like just more than ever, I was in it and
hands on the whole process.
I had very clear ideas, or I knew what I wasn't. I was definitely steering the boat most of the time. Whereas in the past, maybe I was more likely, not so much with maybe Impossible to Hold album or It'll Be All Right. I think in 2015, I decided, all right, Christina, like you've been doing this for a bit, pull up your big girl panties and like make the decisions and don't stop until you're happy with the music. And at the time, so yeah, I just so much time over time. Usually we put out a record every 2 years and a couple of videos, blah, blah, blah. But, I wanted a stellar music video for every single. I wanted 4 singles leading up to the album launch. And that took me a couple of years to, produce. And I wanted to take my time. There's so much, everybody's like, put out this now and every 6 weeks. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like I'm just not. And I needed that time. And I really liked that, giving attention to the singles and with the music video. And we had a radio promotional campaign for every single we put out. I like that process. Like, I don't even know if I will do an album in the future. It might be just singles,
Right. You talked about the music video. So your music video for Storm, which is out, and it was directed by Matt Charlton. Just tell us about that and the idea behind the video itself. Was it a vision that you had, or is it something you just kind of gave to Matt and said, just tell me what you want, what you see, and let's go with that? What was the process behind that?
Well, Matt's great, and he's an old friend of mine. We used to be in bands together, and I was in his band, and he was in my band, and we just he's been a supporter over the years, and he's a great songwriter as well, and he knows music and better than I do. I think he's a bigger fan of music than I am, I think. And he's a super talented at what he does with his company Pigeon Row, and he has great instincts and talent for marketing and creating content that has an impact and reach, I think. I've always want to work with Matt, but he's very busy, and I didn't initially, I fumbled into asking him, but it was kind of like this, I don't want to put him in a position where he's going to feel like he has to say yes. But I don't know, the moment happened, we were at his place for dinner, and I was like, do you want to work on this? But initially it was going to be maybe something else. And it ended up, we decided that one video for the title track, that was going to be the focus. And I think I told Matt that it was important to me that, because I had done these 3 other epic videos with Brendan Henry. He lives on Prince Edward Island. Incredible CGI video, special effects, incredible director. Those videos were really fun to be involved in, And I wanted this video, I wanted to get back to seeing myself and my band and being on a stage. So that was important to me. And I had some idea that I shared with Matt, but I was like, Matt, what's your idea? And I liked his idea a lot better. But I really like the idea for it. He walked me through it, and it's a one shot. I was like, yeah, I can see it, I believe it, and then I can make all these other things happen in terms of like I could just see in terms of like, the wardrobe and what I would look like and how I might deliver. It all felt like I could do it. It was still very challenging. It was a video that doing a one shot and having to hit your mark with the camera person. It was like this real dance. Like, and we did it over and over and over and over. And Matt had to pick the right one that had the magic. And I think he did a great job. Everybody in that video had to hit their mark over and over and over. And especially me, because I'm in it the entire time. But I really liked that challenge. I mean, I'm sure there's other challenges he could have asked me to do that I would have been terrified and not been comfortable doing. But it achieved something that, for me, which was I want us to be on stage. I want the band to be in it because I want to get back to live performance. I still dream of playing bigger shows and on big stages. And I love that. I feel quite comfortable on those stages and with all the production and lighting and sound and stuff.
Yeah,
so
it's exciting, isn't it?
I think for Matt, he wanted to make a video that kind of demonstrated like the long and like the hard work that an artist puts into, actually a release. And so the video represents, I guess, that where you're kind of going through, here's the rehearsal and then here's the backstage and there's a team of people, sort of like these maybe smaller examples of the bigger, what's really going on. And you can kind of see in it, like I'm not happy the entire, there's a tension, there's concern, there's worry, there's nerves, and then you're out and there's like a breathing once you hit the stage, and I can see I'm gliding across the stage and I'm kind of in bliss. I'm doing the thing I love finally, after years and years of planning, and it's hard work, and I don't know. I really like that, where he was coming from with that video.
And where was it filmed?
We filmed it at the Rebecca Cohen Auditorium in
That's where I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I recognize that room.
It's very special.
Yeah, it is. It's no, the video I absolutely loved. From my first time I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, I totally get this.
It's important to me to create an atmosphere that's conducive to everybody feeling comfortable so that they can really be their best, bring their best. And because we all work so hard and there is stress in our lives, if it's maybe a little selfish, I want to have those moments where we don't have to feel that way and we can just do what we love,
And that's where the magic happens.
I think so. I do think so, yeah.
How would you describe the sound of this album?
I don't know. I'm terrible at describing the sound of my records. I think it's lush. I think there's some definitely lush moments. I don't know. Yeah.
Because
pass.
I only asked that because you can't really put the Christina Martin sound in a box, can you?
Well, I hope not. I think with this album, I actually am exploring more my lower range than ever before. And I really enjoyed that. It's kind of a serious album.
It is very serious. But like if you had to put you sort of in a box, if you like had to like click on a genre on a music listening platform, because you fall into like the pop, you fall into the rock, folk, Americana. There's hints of country. There's like you're hitting all of them. So how would you describe yourself?
Honestly, I've given up and I'm a singer-songwriter. It's sort of, but I think, if I could be, I would love to be classified as a rock singer, like, cause I do love rock music, and I mean like rock, like an Annie Lennox is, I think, a rock singer, or Stevie Nicks.
And that comes across definitely with your voice.
But I love all the genres, really. There's great songs in every single genre that the industry's created. But it's for ease, and I like to simplify. I think I am a singer-songwriter,
Sure.
in that there's usually a story behind. The Americana genre is handy too because it does encompass like a lot of different genres. And when I started writing, I was in Austin, and I think I might say like, the approach I take is still kind of similar. And the artists that were influencing me when I started songwriting were Americana artists like Patty Griffin, Sean Colvin, Steve Earle, Lucinda Williams, Emmylou Harris, Wilco, Jayhawks. And but then of course I love all kinds of music, and I love a lot of pop and rock, and so yeah, when you get more, I guess, into it, and as time goes on, you listen to those influences and sometimes try to emulate them, or inspired by them ongoing. Like I'll still listen to David Bowie, and it'll trigger something in me, to an idea for a
Right.
song or a rhythm, or Paul Westerberg or the Killers,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't have budgets or plans for a next single because I always thought it was kind of ridiculous when the album's out. The album's out. Like,
Yeah.
so now you want me to put out a
Everything's
single
there.
that's
Yeah.
already fucking out? Like, fuck you. Like, it's that's why I did it this way, and it may or may not be the right way to do it. I've enjoyed it, and yeah, so now it's time for me to get back to for singing for people.
The other thing
Yeah.
that you actually do, which I think is quite interesting as well, and but talking about things that take time and that are new, is how that your music is accessible to your listeners and your websites. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, I mean, again, during the pandemic, I had time and was able to find some resources to partner up with folks. I did a training with Sensory Friendly Solutions and Crystal Seeberger on how to make my music more, how to reduce barriers to accessing my music online and in person. So there's a lot of experimentation happening there. And even before that, I mean, years and years ago, a friend of mine I invited to a show, and my friend is a wheelchair user, and they came to the show. The venue said they were wheelchair accessible. They came to the show and they couldn't get in. And that really bothered me. I was embarrassed. And I realized I needed to learn a lot more. So at that time, this would have been 2016, 17. Okay, how can I like make sure this doesn't happen again in the future,
Sure.
right? So when you start learning more about accessibility, realizing there were so many other ways that there were barriers to accessing my work. And during the pandemic, of course, where everybody's online, there were some other things to consider too. And I work with this incredible artist. She did all the artwork for my album, Nicole Alain Lugo. And Nicole and I talk about this stuff all the time, everything to do with creating in our businesses too. And Nicole's mom is legally blind, and Nicole spent her youth and like describing for her mom when they would watch television, movies, and go to shows. And so I think through, just the people that are around me and some of the work I've done, respite work in my 20s and 30s, providing support for individuals that live with a disability, intellectual and physical, it was just kind of like this natural thing that was like, well, I'm curious about this, how to do this, how to make this a little bit more accessible. And then I was able to find some resources to help me make some changes. And so part of that involved auditing my website and making improvements. So my website is not 100% accessible, but it is accessible to screen readers. So that was a big win. And then I made the commitment to go back, and I did find resources. I could only do this with money. And this is important to say because, when you think, well, why doesn't everybody do this? It costs money. There's production time involved, and not everybody has that time. And I totally get why. It takes a lot. And but I was able to have that time during the pandemic. So my commitment was I'm going to make all of my official music videos, make a version that audio described for partially sighted and blind audiences. Make sure they all have proper closed captions. I can't do it for all of the videos that I have out there, all my live videos. I can't afford it. Maybe someday I will, but for me, it was a huge step and commitment to do that. So that's done now. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel that's all my audio described music videos. There are 17 total. And then the other things I try to do, and not every show is accessible, and I try to like let people know who's the show for. Here's a number, call the venue in advance. And if you have any questions, because everybody's so different, we all have different requirements and needs, and some are greater than others. So I can't guess. I don't know. And I know that my shows are not for everybody, but, to let people know is this venue, are there steps? Is there's wheelchair?
Of course. And all that changes someone's experience, and it's a much more positive experience for that person who's coming out to the show, because probably years ago, they didn't even have the option of someone helping them. And so maybe they wouldn't have come out to experience that live music. So yeah, I think that's just one amazing thing that you're doing.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I think, I'm still learning. It's kind of an ongoing, obviously, I'm learning, and I'm not perfect. And like I said, not all my shows are anywhere near accessible, but I mean, if anybody listening is curious about it for their business or, their music, online events, in-person events, there's so much you can do that's simple and doesn't cost anything. And there's some great resources out there, and I'm happy to help point people in a direction to start their own journey,
I love that. And that's one thing that's much more visible when you go to live gigs is you see the signage people, you see so many things are happening now. And I think it's all a step in the right direction. So,
guided volunteers. Oh, thank you. Like having guided volunteers, like trained in advance, to keep an eye out for anybody that's coming in that might need an extra hand or guidance. And having live audio description might not be something you can do at every show, but maybe there's a show once every couple of years and you have a sensory friendly experience, and you put some extra effort into that, and ask people in the community to get involved. If you're not the expert, which I'm not. So I think you can have a lot of fun with it as well.
You mentioned the artwork. That's something that I wanted to point out, because it's like that's one of the most exciting things when you look at your album is your artwork is like top notch there. What inspired that?
I knew this was, this is an extremely personal album, and I wanted to paint the picture of somebody who was in the muck of things, but was still able to be strong and vulnerable. So I wanted strength and vulnerability to come across. This is about me. These are written from me, through me, whatever. So I needed to be in it, on it, I mean, the photography, the photographer is incredible to work with. Cherokee Anderson, Nicole, who did the artwork with me. She recommended Cherokee, and I'm so glad she did. The photography was a starting point in some ways for then developing the rest of the artwork. So I would mock up these kind of landscapes and made a ton of notes. There was symbolism that when listening to my songs and reading the lyrics, there were important things that came through. So I would jot that down. Like I have a whole set of temporary tattoos. The tattoos represent some of the things you're seeing in the artwork. Like there's the crow that represents for me transformation, lightning, illumination, the star, creation, because I'm a creator, and it's been such an incredible experience being a creator, and it's a magical process I don't even fully understand, but I'm just so grateful to be, have that in my life. And there's a lot of roses in the artwork that represent courage, and the moon, a sense of belonging. Finding a sense of belonging in your life is important. There's a rosary, and that represents my grandmother's rosary, which I'm not religious, but my grandmother was Catholic, and represents for me prayer and gratitude. That's what I use prayer for, to practice gratitude. And one thing I wanted from the beginning was all of the elements needed to be animatable, like for a future performance, or like if you see when we put out a single, there are these animations that Nicole did, and that's all the artwork elements individually layered. So that was important from the get-go.
That's actually quite exciting.
Yeah, it was.
That'd be great to see. Yeah,
it's quite an investment, and each one needed to be slightly different. All the single artworks, but yet I wanted them all to have this cohesiveness. So with the vinyl, when you buy the vinyl, you open up this panoramic of all the single covers, and they're all connected, which you don't really you wouldn't realize unless you had the panoramic from the vinyl, because with the CD and the digital booklet, you do get the 20-page lyric booklet, but they're not all, the single artwork isn't connected. It was just an enormous endeavor that is jam-packed with symbolism from, the lyrics, what they mean to me, and all that to say that I think I'm a strong woman who is also, I crumble. I have days where I crumble. Like, we can be strong, we can be vulnerable, we can have bad days. And I wanted the artwork to represent that, and that you can also be strong through a storm or come out strong, whatever.
You can be
whatever
healed.
That means to you. But for me, yeah, you can, maybe you can be
exactly.
Maybe. We have dark days, and sometimes we have dark, you don't see it, but I have my struggles, and a lot of it's internal, and you're kind of battling it every day. And I think the artwork kind of represents that as well. I have puzzles for March as well. With the single artwork, each cover is a puzzle that you can order from my Bandcamp. And when we did In Control, Nicole, the animation is a bunch of puzzle pieces like coming together. And so there were just so many opportunities to have fun and play with these artwork elements. I really have never done that like to this extent. It was a lot.
I think your listeners will be very excited when they get the artwork, because it's definitely part of the storytelling of this album as well. And it's accurate. It's not just your face, which would be accurate as well, because it's your story. But no, the elements of the artwork are on point, is what I have written on my notes.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm glad. Again, I'm so burnt out from it all, and I don't regret any of it, but I don't know if I have it in me to do this again. But you say that now, right? But I've also been burnt out before, and here I am. I did push my limits again.
But you've done it. It's done.
Yeah, I did it.
Exactly. And you're actually going to go out and tour the album in the fall. You've got the Netherlands, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. I counted 46 dates.
Oh, really? There's 36. Do I have 10 more?
I think I counted the UK dates as well.
Oh, yes, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's more UK dates coming. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you're
just a couple.
Yeah. So you've got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of audience to share this with, which is exciting.
More audience to grow, hopefully. I'm ready. We're leaving soon, and looking forward to it very much so. And then I still have some Canada dates to plan.
Sure.
I don't want to neglect Canada.
No, you don't want to do that. I'm going to definitely try and come out and see you outside of the UK. And a little weekend trip. Never hurt anybody.
No, you should give me a heads up. I might have some recommendations.
Sure, I will do. I like the idea of your living room shows. Tell us what that looks like. What does that look like?
Well, it's funny. We just finished 3 living room shows in our home studio. We call them the Denim Sessions. We're going to do them every summer now. But I certainly love doing the house concerts still. They're easy for hosts and for us. The host, basically, all they need to do is invite between 20 to 60 people. There's a ticket price that they collect the money from their friends, and And then they're cool because they have an artist that they love in their home. And, sometimes they arrange a sound system and sometimes it's unplugged. It depends. But these are listening events. They're usually early evenings. So, you can do them any night of the week. And I've done them over my entire career. I remember doing my first one in Austin, Texas for a woman that I used to look after her kids and did it in her backyard. They're just great. They're great. It's great to get your friends together and enjoy live music, support live music. And
sure.
Yeah, we love it.
Also, the other thing I wanted to touch on was your podcast that you have.
Chat with Heart. Yeah, Dale he engineers it, edits it. He's not on it. He was a guest. He was my first guest, and it's probably the most listened to episode in season 1. But other than that, he does not like to be on it. So I'm the host, and I chat with people I find inspiring, and it's a lot of fun. And I've just wrapped season 2, actually. We're launching the last episode with Stacy Fisher, my Pilates instructor. And then I'm going to take a break and tour this album and then come back whenever I'm ready. But I think I set it up so that it supports my lifestyle too. There's no pressure to put an episode out every week or every month. And as you know, it's a lot of fun. These are, instead of a 5-minute interview or chat with someone, it's nice to have an hour to really dive in and it feels a lot more relaxing,
And also, I just thought maybe we'd touch on how we sort of met.
Yeah, let's do it. Wait, how did we meet? We met, through Instagram, really.
Through Instagram, but we're both guests on the Canadian Love Map.
That's right. Nancy.
Yeah, and then we met in London.
You gave us a wonderful tour. We've never had a tour guide in London. But you did like an official, I felt like it was a pretty official tour. We covered some ground.
We did.
It was so fun. I really enjoyed that. And then we had dinner at your place.
And I still have the rose bush. In fact, I have it outside that you brought when you came for dinner, and it's still alive. And I call her Christina.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I don't know if you noticed, but there's white roses in my music video. Storm.
Well, there's a white rose blossoming at the moment in my back garden, which
amazing.
I call her Xtina, actually.
That's what everybody seems to be calling me these days. Actually, the nickname that I got in high school, the boys basketball team seemed to call me Xtina. He always called me Xtina, and then a couple people call me Xtina. Yeah, and now it's my handle on Instagram. And,
exactly.
Twitter. I guess it's not called Twitter anymore.
It's kind of like Kevjet. It stuck with me. And we just have one of those things. Exactly.
I never felt like a Christina. Xtina feels more appropriate.
So, yeah, exactly. The leggy. Yeah. And just before we go, I just have a couple quick firing questions.
Let's do it.
No thinking about it, just answering quickly.
Okay.
Let's go with your favorite song of all time.
Oh, fuck. Favorite song of all time? I mean, and honestly, this is just coming to mind, but it's probably, Simply the Best, like Tina Turner. It would be, I don't know why that came up.
There you go.
It's probably not my favorite song, but I do love that song and I love Tina Turner. So I guess I'll give you that.
Favorite live show you've ever attended?
Tina Turner, 1993, Montreal. This is going to be a theme here.
Favorite celebrity encounter?
Tina Turner. No, I've never met Tina. Brian Adams on stage. He pulled me up and I sang Summer 69 with him at the Halifax Metro Center when I was 18, 19.
That's right. That's a great story. Favorite scent?
Oh, well, I'm into, I have this clean perfume and it's Rain.
Okay.
Is the smell. So I like that. And the smell of fresh cut grass I love, and cucumbers.
Oh, good answer. Favorite flavor?
I would say I like chocolate. I mean, I don't eat a lot of it, but I like cocoa's in my smoothie every day. Cocoa powder. Yeah. Cacao.
Favorite instrument?
I would say the piano because it was my first instrument. I don't know how, I'm not good at playing it, but I use it for writing. Piano is beautiful. Yeah.
Favorite mode of transport?
Ooh, I guess just a car. Horse. I mean, horse, if we really could all afford that, I would love to. No, but I'd like a good car.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
Oh, childhood memory. I think I have a good one of my brothers and my parents and I all in the car together, driving down to Florida, listening to the radio. Weird Al Yankovic. Ugh. But I love Weird Al Yankovic. I don't know why I went ugh. But I think just that I have some good memories about just driving in the car. I would be sitting on suitcases to make myself taller. My brothers were obviously older and bigger than me. So I think that yeah, it's a good memory.
Favorite way to relax?
Went bowling with some friends last night. That was fun. Disco bowling, yeah.
That sounds fun.
It was a blast, yeah.
That
I
sounds
remember
fun.
for 2 hours I didn't think about I said that I announced this to everybody. For 2 hours I haven't thought about spreadsheets, bookkeeping, and like planning anything. So it was pretty cool for me.
Cool. Well, thank you, Christina. It was lovely to see your face and to chat with you as always. And hopefully I'll be able to see you in person soon and give you a big hug.
Well, at least in March, because we'll be in the UK.
Definitely.
Least in London.
March
So thank
7th,
you for
isn't
doing
it?
this. March 7th at the Green Note. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple more dates we'll announce. But yeah, I'm excited to see you again too. And congratulations on this. Keep having fun.